Hey guys, what's up? Let's dive right into this. In this video I'm going to talk about the 5 love languages because it has been a concept that really helped me strengthen all my personal relationships, and I believe it can absolutely do the same thing for you. It's a concept that I got introduced to by, I don't really remember actually, I was doing some research online about difficult relationships or whatever, and I found out about the 5 love languages, and it's basically a book that talks about the fact that we all have our very individual styles of receiving and communicating love, and it can be very helpful to know which one is your style of love giving and receiving, and which one's your partners or your friends or your families. So figuring out your own love styles, love languages, is a very helpful thing to do because it allows you to, one, communicate to the other people, to the other person you're in a relationship with, or you are trying to build some kind of connection with, to communicate towards them what is important to you and how you feel loved, and also how you usually communicate love, because this is something that I became aware of by actually reading the book, is that the way you receive love, so the way you feel loved by other people, is usually also the way you are going to give your love. So because this is the only thing you kind of, it's the language you speak, right? So if I'm speaking English right now, I'm communicating in English to you because I understand English, and I can make you understand what I'm trying to say because I know that you understand English, right? It's the same thing with the love languages. I communicate my love to you through my language, through my love language, and it's also the way I understand love. So if you know which is your love language, it can be a mix of different styles, like the guy who came up with the concept, I don't really know the writer, but he discovered 5 different love languages. And of course there's probably a million ways to communicate love, right? But by putting them in 5 main categories, it's easier to kind of educate yourself on this topic, and to make it becomes easier to grasp the whole concept, right? These are like tools, concepts to simplify a much larger topic, all right? But by putting them in 5 main categories, it allows you to condense a lot of information into these 5 categories, and then communicate your own language more easily towards other people, right? So the 5 love languages, they basically are physical touch, quality time, receiving gifts, words of affirmations, and acts of service. So these 5 love languages, they contain almost every possible act of love that someone can do towards another person, or do towards himself, right? Because self-love is also a huge concept, a huge part of healthy relationships. So you can actually take a test online where you can like fill in a survey and then find out your most important love language, because usually people have a mix of all 5, right? You probably have 1 main or 2 main characteristics, languages, and then a bunch that are less important to you, but they're also there, right? So many people enjoy quality time together, or they enjoy words of affirmation. You know, it's nice to hear from someone you care about that they care about you too, or that they appreciate you. And it's also very important to pay attention to doing that yourself, to actually express your appreciation for other people and to give them words of affirmation, right? But by figuring out your own love language, you will start to notice that you become a lot more aware of your own ways through which you communicate love and through ways you receive love. So let me give an example, right? You're in a relationship and things don't seem to be going very well, and you both feel like, oh, I'm doing so many things to support my partner, and I don't feel loved, and I don't feel as if my behavior is being appreciated. So for example, you might have two people. One person, the one person takes out the trash every day and does the dishes and sweeps the floor and makes the bed, etc., etc., and they do this on a consistent basis, but their partner doesn't seem to notice. For them it's like almost straightforward, for them it's like normal almost that these things happen, and they never notice it and they never acknowledge it, right? And this person feels as if they're putting in so much time and effort to show their love and appreciation for their partner by doing these small acts of service on a daily basis, but they don't feel the acknowledgement of their partner. They don't feel loved because their partner is not showing them that they care, that they appreciate. And then the other person maybe puts in a lot of time and effort into maybe giving lots of hugs and touching a lot, and maybe taking them out for a walk and holding their hands or stroking their back while they're watching TV or whatever it is, right? And they feel like my partner is not really reciprocating. I don't feel like my partner is touching me a lot, and it kind of feel like my partner is not really in love with me or doesn't really care about me. And this is like a huge discrepancy because they both communicate their love in a different language and they don't know this from each other, right? Because this person, he's actually, or she, is doing acts of service because they feel as if that is the best way to communicate to someone that you love them, right? This can also be like the relationship between maybe a daughter and her father, right? Her father might pick her up from school and drive her back home and maybe buy her some new clothes, but he never says that she loves her, and she feels unloved because her dad never tells her so, right? But his acts of kindness towards his daughter, the fact that he goes to pick her up, the fact that he buys her clothes, the fact that he does all these kinds of things with her, means that he actually loves her, but she doesn't feel loved because maybe her love language is words of affirmation and she needs to hear from him that he loves her, right? Now back to the example of the two people in a relationship, the partners. So this person doing these acts of kindness, acts of service, they feel like this is the way to communicate their love, and their partner is never reciprocating. They're not also sometimes doing the dishes or making the bed or taking out the trash, because to them it's just not that important. They don't pay a lot of conscious attention to these things, and so the person doing the acts of service feels unloved because their partner never reciprocates and never acknowledge what they do. And then the other way around, the same thing. The other partner who is craving the touch, they touch a lot because to them that means love, to touch people, to be caressing, to take good care of them, right? And they don't receive this touch from their partner, so they feel unloved because to them this is the most important way you communicate towards someone that you love them. So this can cause a lot of tension in the relationship because both people feel like they are putting in a lot of time and effort into showing their partner that they care, that they love them, right? But at the same time, they don't absorb it. They don't really feel it. They don't really resonate with it because they are just simply not understanding the way they are talked to, right? If somebody will start talking in, I don't know, Mandarin, then I will not understand them. Maybe a little bit because they can do some body movements or the tonality of their voice, whatever. I can probably understand a few basic things, and that is probably also what's happening in this relationship, right? They do care about each other and they know that they love each other, but sometimes they just feel like they don't understand each other, right? So the basic behaviors are there, the basic signs are there, but I cannot understand what they are saying. It's the same thing. So the solution for these two people is actually to find out their own love language, to realize that this person cares about acts of service and the other person cares about physical touch, and then realize, okay, the way I give my love to my partner is also the way I receive love. And so by talking about this and by realizing that, okay, I care about you, obviously, you're my partner, I want you to feel loved, I want you to feel good, I want you to feel appreciated, then you can start to incorporate, maybe the person who is doing the acts of service can start to incorporate a little bit more touching, like maybe give their partner a hug when they enter the house, or when they're in bed they can hold hands or cuddle, whatever it is, right? And then the other person who is used to the physical touch as a means to communicate love, they can start to do small kinds of some acts of service, small acts of service, and that will show their partner that they actually do care, that they are attentive to what is being done, and they can even like verbalize their appreciation for these small acts of service, etc. And this will drastically improve the relationship, like intensely, immensely, because now both people know the way they communicate and understand love, and they can actually talk to each other, and they can actually show that they care. And it will take time. Like it's learning a new language. It's not something that you do from one day to another. It's not self-evident. You have to put in the time, the practice, the energy, and it takes time to acquire the habit of communicating in that language, right? You don't want to completely change your own love language, because that is probably not even possible. I believe that we all have our unique blueprints, and it's in our system, the way we communicate love, and we actually like really feel it and experience it. However, you can put more conscious effort into learning the language of your partner, learning the language of your friends and family, and then by consciously putting in more time and effort to learn this language, you will also adapt more behavior that will communicate that towards your partner, and it will drastically improve the intimacy and the trust and relationship, because both people now feel like they are cared for, like they are being understood, and it makes such a huge difference in the way you can feel appreciated and cared for in a relationship. So it's crucial that I believe it's crucial that you find out about your own love language, and that you're able to communicate that towards your partner. And a way you can do that is like, hey, I discovered this new book, or I discovered this new concept, and it's called the 5 Love Languages, and I would love to talk to you about it, because I believe that it will drastically improve our well-being in the relationship, and I really care about you, and I want to make sure that we understand each other properly, and that we both feel loved and cared for. And this is a great way to address this without having to offend your partner, without having to, start a difficult conversation about it, because it can just be a lighthearted introduction. And then if you feel like your partner is actually interested in this, then you can go explore it further, and you can send them the survey, and they can take the survey, and then you can talk about it, and it can absolutely drastically improve the relationship with basically anyone, right? Like usually it's more in terms of the romantic partner, right? But it can also improve your relationships with your friends, with your family, even with strangers. If you know how you communicate love towards others, this is so powerful to know about yourself. And I believe that by knowing yourself better, by getting to know yourself better, you will also be able to know others better, because you can relate in a different way. You can relate from a strong centered source, and this is a very powerful thing to be able to do, I believe. So the more you learn about yourself, the more you will indirectly also learn about others. And this is I believe very important if you want to maintain healthy relationships. And I recently saw a video about happiness research. It was very briefly that I watched that video, and they talk about the most important thing for people's happiness are healthy relationships. And I really believe that is the case, and not only with other people, but also with ourselves. So my goal is to be able to improve my relationships with myself and with other people, and help others to do the same thing. Like I believe that having healthy, good relationships can be such a fulfilling thing in life. And I have struggled with it myself, to find my own way, and to learn to communicate my boundaries, my desires, my needs, my vulnerabilities. All these things, they are required in order to build a healthy relationship. And it's something that I spend a lot of time researching and learning about. And I think it's such a wonderful thing if you feel like you're able to sustain great and healthy and inspiring relationships. And I want to provide you with the tools to do that. And I think one of the big tools, for me at least, was discovering about the 5 love languages. And so that's why I want to talk about it, because I want to share this knowledge with others, with you, the viewers, because it probably at some point it was introduced to me by someone else talking about it, right? And so we all spread the information, and this will improve the overall well-being of the planet by providing people with tools to improve their personal relationships. So yes, being in a relationship or working on relationships, because I do believe that at some point relationships, they require work. Like there's this saying, oh, true love doesn't require work, or whatever it is. I don't really believe that. Like I like to have a very, exciting, stimulating relationship where everything seems to be perfect and everything goes without ever having to put in any effort. But I do believe usually it's a short-lived thing. Like it's the hormones and it's the excitement and it's the novelty and everything that is involved in the first few months of relationship usually. But after that, you will have to adapt to your partner. You'll have to learn to deal with flaws in them and in you, and things that trigger you and things that trigger them, and you'll have to learn to resolve conflict, to have arguments, productive arguments, which I prefer to call dialogues. I'll make another video about that actually, now that I think about it. I might record it after this one. Anyway, so you'll have to learn to navigate these personal issues, these interpersonal issues, and I believe there's much to be learned in a relationship, but also out of the relationship, because the relationship with yourself is also something you can't deny. It is a big part of our personal growth, and it allows for more stable and fulfilling relationships if we know ourselves, right? The Greeks, they had this saying above all their temples before you entered. It says, know thyself. And I think that this is a very important thing to take into consideration, that if you want to live a fulfilling, purposeful life, knowing yourself is a big part of that. And it all comes down to educating yourself, becoming more aware, practicing mindfulness, keeping an open mind, staying curious. I believe that is also very useful trait to cultivate, your curiosity, right? Being open-minded, being curious about learning new things, seeing things from a different perspective, talking to people, reading other books. Like try to change it up from time to time, right? Like for me personally, I catch myself reading a lot of self-help stuff, self-development books, stuff like that. But sometimes it's also useful to check out something totally different, like a science fiction novel or a movie or a series, whatever it is, just to incorporate the knowledge you've absorbed and put it into a different perspective, to how would I say, to connect it to different perspectives, different points of view, different styles, different inputs. And that is how we learn the best, right? By making associations between different things and then connecting them all together. And I believe that by staying open-minded, by staying curious, by cultivating curiosity, right? Because I believe that we actually are able to do that, to make ourselves excited about learning new things, because once we realize that it's driving us forward, it's making us grow, it's actually a good thing to be curious about stuff, like to want to learn, to want to develop yourself. Then once you connect a positive sensation to being curious, you will start to feel more and more curious, because you realize that it's helping you to grow as a person. It's helping you in your self-development, in your personal development. And for me, at least, it has been a huge driving force to want to discover more about myself, more about other people, and this is how I ended up like reading about the 5 love languages, and I'll probably also watch the video about it, and I thought it was a very profound concept, and something to not be overlooked, especially like if you feel like if you don't feel loved within your relationships, albeit family relationships, friend relationships, or romantic relationships, there might be an issue with the way you communicate love and the way you receive love. And by discovering about this and then talking about it with the people that you're in a relationship with, this can solve a lot of problems, a lot of tension, and can relieve so many unnecessary feelings, because by putting it out there, by talking about it, you can then adapt. And if this other person refuses to communicate in your love language, then it's important to ask yourself, like, hey, do I really want to continue hanging out with this person? Because I believe that the people that truly care about you and they hear you talk about your love language, they will be inspired to find out about theirs, and then they will be willing to put in the time and the effort to communicate towards you in your love language, and they will also expect from you that you communicate in theirs. And I believe that's a healthy relationship where both people are putting in their best effort and putting their best foot forward in order to make sure that both people feel appreciated, cared for, and are growing together, right? And you want to not forget to focus on yourself as well. Like, you want to not completely merge and completely make your lives molding together like one piece, one path. You want to kind of like keep both doing what you care about on your own and meet each other in the middle, right? You wanna maintain your own goals and lives and values. And maybe if you find someone who is aligned with those goals and values, I think that is in theory the most productive or the most easy relationships, when you're on the same path at a specific time, right? Because if your values and your goals completely differ, you tend to separate more easily, right? But if you're on the same path and you have the same goals and values, that is like compatibility. You know, compatibility in a relationship is I believe very, very important. And I used to fall for chemistry over compatibility, and it's, I believe, something that we all learn at some point. Like, we crave the intensity, we crave the chemistry, the intense stimulation a relationship like that provides. But the older we get, the more we realize that compatibility is also super, super important to maintain a healthy relationship. So that is definitely something to be looking for in a partner whenever you are like getting to know them, right? But that's a whole other topic. I think relationships are immensely broad. It's an immensely big topic, and you can talk about it for hours and hours and hours. But the topic of this video was actually the 5 love languages, and I think I said just about anything I wanted to say about it. So I will end the video here, and thank you for being brave, and I want to also thank you for looking inwards and making yourself and thus the world a better place, one step at a time. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. Talk soon. Bye.